Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swag Hoss. I got some stains on my shirt. Okay, I was doing my hair. It was the water that went through it. As you can see, my hair is very dark right now. And a couple droplets fell on my shirt. So I'm just going to point it out to you guys right now because I don't feel like changing my shirt. Okay? So we're going to have to watch this video with Swag Hoss having stains on his shirt. Okay? Just deal with it. All right? Deal with it. I'm not doing a wardrobe change at this point because in this video, we got to get right into it. We got to talk about the recent news. Something is Killing the Children, the show that was heavily anticipated to be the most explosive, most dynamic show to ever come onto any streaming service. Thus, the comic book was going to be the most valuable comic book ever. Finally got some news. Some re-upping of their deal for showrunners on Netflix. And that caused a little bit of stirring in the market. And then on top of that, we get other casting news about Steven Yeun coming to the MCU, and a lot of the spec market is jumping on certain books. And so in this video, we got to talk about this stuff. We got to talk about what's been moving in the market. But later on in the video, I want to just discuss this idea of why do we always wait? You know, why do we always wait to buy the comic books that we want? What are we waiting for? You know, if it's out there, if it's something you want, comic collectors, comic buyers, comic speculators, comic book investors, whatever you want to call it, at some point, if you believe in a book, if you think it's going to the moon, if it's your favorite character, if it's your favorite story, if it's your favorite series, if it's your favorite whatever, you're just going to have to buy it and not wait for the moment when everybody is looking to buy it. Because as we find out time and time again, there is no such thing as a dead spec. You just got to wait a little bit longer for it to pop back up again. But before I get into the video, if you guys could drop me a like, comment, subscribe, you guys know the drill by now. Let's get into the video here today. Now, first thing we got to do is talk about this Deadline article, the news about Something is Killing the Children. You guys can see right here, Deadline says, Netflix re-ups overall deal with Dark creators, duo board, James Tynion, comic series, Something is Killing the Children with Boom Studios. Okay, that is like the worst written headline I've ever read. Netflix re-ups overall deal with Dark creators, duo board, James Tynion comic series, Something's Killing Children with Boom Studios. No offense to Andreas Weisman, maybe they're a great writer or whatever, but like it feels like they were like, what are the top SEOs that we can just cram to a title just so we get, you know, the most amount of clicks on this article. Anyways, as we go into the article here, 5 years after Netflix inked their first overall European deal with series creators for Dark, Baron Bo Odar and Jante Frise, sorry if I got those names wrong, the studio has re-up with a duo in a splashy 8-figure pact we can reveal. So the article then goes on to explain, you know, what the plot of Something is Killing the Children is, published by Boom Studios, etc., etc. But you guys know the drill by now. Something is Killing the Children, one of the hottest comic books in the market circa 2019. And this is the first issue of that titled series that apparently now is going to be having a Netflix show. And this is what I think is really interesting about this book. You know, for a long time, this was one of the most heavily spec'd on modern comic books that has come out in recent years. I mean, I think everybody was on this series. Everybody was talking about this thing. And not even due to the fact that a lot of people felt like this was going to be an amazing, adaptation into some streaming service. I mean, people legitimately liked the story. People legitimately fell in love with the comic book itself. And I think that that is actually a really refreshing thing, especially in today's market, where a lot of these, you know, number one issues that come out with these indie publishers, Boom, Image, Aftershock, whatever the case is, a lot of people just think like, oh, like this would be a great Netflix show. This would be a great Amazon series. You know, this could be the next The Boys. That's what everybody thinks. And it's really rare that people are like, oh, it's just legitimately a good comic series. I mean, even after this book does its run with whatever we see, you know, with Netflix here, if it let's say it, you know, gets actually adapted, we see it on Netflix, it runs 7 seasons, it's the greatest show ever. This is still going to be a fantastic comic book simply due to the comic book being fantastic. But like a lot of hot comic books do, this thing got way ahead of itself in the market. I mean, when it initially came out in 2019, obviously started off, you know, at a $50, $59, $41, $49 price tag. But when we got to like mid 2020 to late 2020, this is when this thing really started to pick up steam. I mean, I feel like this book was one of the first, books to really start to pop off during COVID lockdowns when things went crazy. And then, of course, in 2021, at the height, this thing was selling 9.8 grade at the $1,200 range. Well, ever since then, like a lot of books, we've been on the decline, down, 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 red nights going down, all the way to where we were at the $539 price point, just recently in November. And then, of course, with this recent announcement, here on February 23 of 2023, we have 5 sales back to back to back, hitting that $800 mark for the high of that particular day, which is $225 above what the book was selling for just 2 days prior to that. And this is just for the first issue. As you guys can see, there are so many prints of this book. There are so many different issues. I can just scroll down for days and days and days on eBay. You can see how many sold listings there are for this book. I mean, pages and pages of it ever since yesterday. And it really ties back to kind of what I wanted to really discuss with the topic of this video. And that's this idea of, there you see on February 21st, this book that sells for $575. And then just 2 days later after this announcement, the book jumps up by $225. I mean, it is absolutely crazy that a book can jump $225 in 2023 in this current market at this current moment in time. And that really, to me, is the thing that we gotta, talk about. We gotta remind ourselves. We gotta tell ourselves as comic book collectors. And this isn't even FOMO aside. I think that this has more to do with conviction. If you're somebody out there who believes in a book, who believes in a character, who believes in a first appearance, who believes in a whatever, you got to just take the plunge. You got to buy that book. There's no reason to suspect that Something is Killing the Children wasn't, going to have progress in it being a series that would eventually have been adapted into some streaming service. Now, granted, I don't necessarily think that the streaming service should have all that much to do with the fact that this book is now more valuable than it was a week ago. But, pop culture is a thing. And, if the brand of Something is Killing the Children can expand beyond that of the comic book market and into other mainstream pop culture, then of course, the value of the collectibles that are associated with it are going to go up as well. And that's one of the reasons why, people are now sort of jumping onto this thing. But, to me, it's really about the conviction. Less about the FOMO, more about if you're out there and you think you have this book or you have this character, or you're thinking to yourself, hey, I am the biggest MODOK fan. MODOK is the guy. MODOK is the character. That's my guy. You should have been stacking those MODOK books. Maybe you did well, maybe you did poorly. I don't know. The market is totally topsy-turvy right now. We don't really know. Although, in these last couple months, the market has been really, really hot, actually. I mean, not setting ultimate record prices, but like we've been seeing, we've been seeing the floors really start to stabilize. Now, of course, a lot of you guys are thinking, well, the market's going to crash again. And yeah, that might be the case. If the market crashes, for some cataclysmic event, then of course the market's going to crash. But generally speaking, it feels like most of the people who are still in comic books right now are buying comic books. And most of the people who, were thinking about it in terms of just doing quick flips and getting free, chicken tendies, those people are gone. Those people are totally gone. And one of the things I think is interesting about this is if you look at, all of the sold books for Something is Killing the Children, if I go over here to Something is Killing the Children, newly listed items, you don't see that many. This is all of the Something is Killing the Children newly listed items. And you got about, 10, 12 overall, which is really not that much considering how many books were actually sold after this announcement. And if we're talking about first print, CGC 9.8 first print, we have one copy right there. And then we have another one right here that is going to be on a 7-day auction, currently at $64. So I'm sure that that's going to finish pretty high. This one right here is obviously listed at $1,000. I mean, it's a best offer. Maybe they'll take $900. But to me, I feel like we're starting to see something kind of different here where you're not seeing that many new listed items for these books that people are looking to flip. Because oftentimes what you see in these markets is as soon as there is an announcement and someone gets FOMO for a book, thinking, oh, I have to buy this book, there are 2 other people out there who think to themselves after an announcement, oh, thank God, I can finally sell this book. And that's when all the newly listed items hit the market. And for these last few months, we've been seeing tons and tons of newly listed items flooding the market after whatever, DC spec, James Gunn discussion, MCU spec, whatever. And now it feels like the sold listings are a lot more in terms of volume than that of the newly listed items, which I think is really interesting. Additionally, the other news we got to talk about, which, kind of has a similar story, similar flavor here, is that it was announced that Steven Yeun has been recently cast to be a part of the Thunderbolts movie. Now, for a while, the speculation has been that, one of the key characters, I don't think this is spoilers to say, this has been a rumor going out there, that the Sentry is going to be one of the surprise characters to show up in this movie. So some people are thinking that Steven Yeun might be playing the Sentry, but the comic book market actually has different ideas. The comic book market is looking to Amazing Fantasy 15, first appearance of Amadeus Cho. Of course, Steven Yeun is Asian. Amadeus Cho is the Asian Hulk. And this is the book that has really been flying in the market. If we go to the sold listings, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. Just like that, pop, pop, pop. After this announcement, selling for this book, a couple 9.8s at the $680 range, which is definitely, a lot higher than some of the more recent sales, where we had a 680 right here, and then we had a 605. I guess we had a 705 in January. Now, granted, it is pure speculation right now. Maybe people haven't caught up to it. But if you go to the newly listed items, only one newly listed Amazing Fantasy 15 for first Amadeus Cho has been put up on eBay. And again, I think that this is a really interesting trend that we're seeing out here in the comic book market, where, we get these kind of, news announcements, and certainly there are a lot of sales. There's a lot of FOMO out there, but we're not seeing a ton of newly listed items hit the market as well. So now we're kind of in this, curious position. I mean, it is possible, as we follow our indexes, that the market can continue to go down in value. But at the same time, if there's enough holders out there, if there's enough collectors that are believing in this stuff, and not that many new listings are coming out, maybe we're at a floor. Now, granted, like I've said in some of the other videos, I don't necessarily think we're going to be hitting, record high prices for Amadeus Cho. I don't think that there's enough money in the market right now, in the macro market, for book prices to be elevated in any sort of way. But what we are seeing is some form of stability out there in the supply and demand equation of the comic book market, which is why it kind of goes back to this idea right now of having that conviction. At a certain point, if you believe in this, of a certain character, a certain book, a certain series, whatever the case is, you're going to have to buy it. Now, granted, you do need to wait in order to get the best version of the best price for that book that you're looking for. I mean, don't just go and buy, that $1,000 Something's Killing the Children. There's going to be a live auction where you can focus on that and maybe get a slightly better deal. That's really the way you should be playing it. But this idea of like, oh, let me wait until it's officially confirmed that this character is, in, whatever movie coming up, or this series is going to be optioned. I mean, I don't know if that's the best way to play it, because as soon as that happens, the market gets all wonky, right? Like there's FOMO in there, there's hype, there's speculation, the values go up and down. So it's impossible to tell at that moment in time what the real fair market value of the book is going to be. I guess what I'm saying to you guys is, I think now is a really good time. It's a really good time. It's a perfect time, actually. Perfect time to be picking up those books that the market doesn't have eyes on. What's that character you're thinking about right now? You know what I mean? Like, what's that character you're thinking about right now? Bishop. I bet there was somebody out there that was thinking Bishop. I read your mind, man. But, there's books like that where you can be like, I'm all in on Bishop right now. Now's as good a time as any to buy that Bishop book. Why wait? Why wait? Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Something's Killing the Children. Steven Yeun coming to the MCU. Who do you guys think Steven Yeun is playing? You think it's Amadeus Cho? You think he's going to be the Sentry? Curious choice for the Sentry. I don't know about that one, but you never know. Maybe he did something great in his audition. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Go pick up that book.